The ground is shifting beneath Washington's feet so fast you can almost hear the tectonic plates of empire grinding against each other. While Donald Trump was live on television, face contorted with that signature mix of bluster and barely concealed panic, threatening Iran with consequences like never before, the very Arab allies he thought would form the bedrock of his anti-Iran coalition were quietly packing their bags and heading to Tehran. I'm not exaggerating. We are watching what historians will one day call the Great Realignment, a moment when the calculations of power in the Persian Gulf turned inside out. The immediate trigger is the staggering revelation that the United States military lost at least 42 aircraft during what it called Operation Epic Fury, a number that has sent shockwaves through the Pentagon and every Gulf capital that once banked on American invincibility. We are talking about 4 F-15E Strike Eagles, an A-10 Thunderbolt, and most symbolically devastating of all, an F-35A Lightning II, the so-called untouchable stealth fighter that Iranian air defenses swatted out of the sky like a common pigeon. Add to that the loss of 24 MQ-9 Reaper drones, representing nearly $12 billion in shattered hardware, and you begin to understand why the Saudi, Qatari, Emirati, and Jordanian leadership are suddenly speaking a very different language.
Shalom, or Shabbat Shalom, Salaki. Kahalo Yahweh Shem Shabbat Shem Kakadash. Give honor to the elder apostles and elder bishops, the great millstone, even the elders that came before them taught us his truth. Shabbat Shalom, salutations to all the brothers out pushing the word of truth and in sincerity, the hopeful like tabernacle of David. The elder Yahshua, I'm back with the World War III daily update. Shabbat Shalom, and salutation to you all. And right here, I'm going to play that again. These Saudi leaders are all going back to Tehran. Right? What are they doing? They're solidifying.
Fences swatted out of the sky like a common pigeon. Add to that the loss of 24 MQ-9 Reaper drones, representing nearly $12 billion in shattered hardware.
Right here.
And you begin to understand why the Saudi, Qatari, Emirati, and Jordanian leadership are suddenly speaking a very different language.
Yeah, they're speaking this language right here. 15 and 17. Okay, so I'm going to read 30 and 31. 2 Ezra 15, 30 and 31. And what I want to do is I want to join these two things because they're fighting together. The Arabs and the Carmanians, the wild boars and the dragons of Arabia, they've been fighting together for a long time. Hezbollah are dragons. Okay? Hezbollah are dragons. The Houthis in Yemen are dragons. Okay? And these wild boars, who's supplying Hamas? Who's supplying Hezbollah? Well, this is why Babylon calls Iran the biggest state sponsor of terrorism or some bullshit like that. Why? Because they supply Hezbollah, Hamas, and things of that nature, while America or Babylon supplies the small hats, which is ridiculous in comparison. Anyway, but let me read 30. 2 Ezra 15 and 30. Also the Carmanians, raging in wrath, shall go forth as the what? Let's start at 28. Salakia. Let me start over. I got to start at 28. 2 Ezra 15 and 28. Behold, an horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east. So this is that whole region. We're talking about that whole region, right? The Gulf states, the Arab Gulf states, Saudi what? Arabia, the Arab nations, and then Iran just happens to be over in that area, and they're fighting together and have been. Okay? Behold, an horrible vision. Let me start again. 2 Ezra 15 and 28. Behold, a horrible vision in the appearance thereof from the east, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon the earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble. Also, the Carmanians, raging in wrath, shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come, and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. Then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature, and if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them. Now, is this talking about the Carmanians conspiring together with the dragons? Or is this talking about all the dragons that have come back together? And if they shall turn themselves, is this talking about I need to get some clarity on this. I'm going to go back and look. But we all know that they're all fighting together. I want to get some clarity on if this is referring to just the dragons or both groups. And if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them. Right now, who's doing it? The Arabs are doing it, the Carmanians do it, and they're doing it together. So let me look into this. I'm going to look at a couple of different versions and see if I can get a little clarity. But right now, I want to try to keep this as short as possible. So that's another in-depth study. Lord willing, I'll get to that. Then these shall be troubled. These are talking about the land of the Assyrians, which is the small hats and the Babylonians. Then these shall be troubled, bled, and keep silence through their power, and shall flee. But the point being made is that they're coming back. Somebody's coming back together. We know that the dragons are coming back together. That's them coming back together right here. Okay, because these guys are against each other right now. They're all, the sheiks and the heads of state are all in it for themselves.
Spotted out of the sky like a common pigeon. Add to that the loss of 24 MQ-9 Reaper drones, representing nearly $12 billion in shattered hardware. And you begin...
This is what I'm talking about. These guys aren't together. They're all working with the West right now. But that has come to an end. Right now they're in negotiations to do what? Come together. So where did they go? They went, each one of them went to Tehran to go make their own deal. What is that? Is that them doing this? Conspiring together in great power? I have to look into them. Let me look at the wording on a couple of different versions. Try to get some clarity. But anyway, look at the different heads of state. They're coming back together, but they're checking in with the wild boars first.
And you begin to understand why the Saudi, Qatari, Emirati, and Jordanian leadership are suddenly speaking a very different language. But the...
Slovakia. A little more of that play. Look at this. They Bogart. We could put our little commercials in wherever we want. Take away the word, devil.
The hardware losses, as psychologically shattering as they are, tell only half the story. The deeper crisis for the empire is unfolding on the water. The Strait of Hormuz.
So they're getting their ass kicked all over the Middle East. Here's what the world is going to find out. See, if you listen to the early part of this, they went into how the truth is finally coming out about what actually happened over there. How many planes Babylon lost. How badly our homeland, Israel, was destroyed in those exchanges. All right, it's very, very bad, and the world doesn't know about it.
That narrow choke point through which a significant portion of the world's energy once flowed uninterrupted into Western and Gulf coffers is now firmly under a new management structure. And the Arab states that once cheered on American and Israeli aggression against Iran are now staring at empty tanker lanes and hemorrhaging national revenues. The bypass pipelines and alternative routes they touted as their escape from Hormuz have collapsed, proven useless in the face of Iran's methodical blockade.
That's big news. Iran struck Saudi Arabia pipeline just hours after ceasefire. See? Now that shit ain't working no more. Now you gotta deal with this oil over here and get them tankers back flowing to make this deal.
Meanwhile, Iran itself is not suffering the oil storage overflow that Washington confidently predicted. Instead, Tehran has simply rerouted its exports through an elaborate network of land corridors, rail lines threading through the Caspian region, and straight into China, making a mockery of the U.S. naval blockade. The oil is flowing, the money is flowing, and it is the Gulf monarchies, not Iran, that are gasping for economic air.
And this is why they're doing this right now. They are conspiring together in great power to persecute them. Okay? Best believe that's what's going on. This is about oil and
fundamental money. Inversion of fortune is what has set off the panic you are now witnessing, both in the White House and in the palaces of the Gulf. If you are as outraged as I am by the endless lies, the fake pretexts, and the wanton destruction that American empire has unleashed on this region, then take a moment right now and smash that like button. Share this video so that the world knows consumed the region this week. A theater that has seen Pakistan's Field Marshal Asim Munir depart Tehran with nothing concrete to show for his efforts, and yet his very presence there signaled a collapse of the American diplomatic monopoly. Munir landed in Tehran on Friday as part of what Islamabad describes as intensive mediation efforts. But what this really represents is the final nail in the coffin of the idea that Washington gets to dictate the terms of peace. He held meetings with senior Iranian officials, including Iran's top negotiator, trying to bridge the gap between an American proposal that is increasingly recognized as a list of humiliating surrender demands and an Iranian position that has hardened into something close to righteous defiance. The fact that no breakthrough was reached is not a failure of diplomacy. It is a reflection of the profound imbalance between the two sides. America, reeling from the loss of its most advanced warplanes and facing domestic outrage over a conflict built on fabricated intelligence, is desperate to extract any face-saving concession. Iran, having withstood the initial onslaught and having systematically dismantled the myth of Western air superiority, is in no mood to bend the knee. What Munir carried back from Tehran was not a signed agreement, but a message. Iran has submitted one final response to the U.S. proposal, and if it is rejected, the region should brace for the resumption of hostilities that Iran has demonstrated it is fully prepared to meet. And this brings me to what is truly electrifying the streets of Tehran, Isfahan, Shiraz, and Mashhad right now. While the diplomats huddle in air-conditioned rooms, the Iranian people have poured out onto the streets once again, but this time, their chants are not directed at their own government. They are demanding that their leadership cease all negotiations with what they rightly call the unprovoked aggressor. After the assassination of their beloved leaders, after the destruction of critical civilian infrastructure with weapons paid for by American taxpayers, the Iranian street is in no mood for compromise. The protesters are carrying banners that read "No negotiation with the murderer" and "Strike, don't talk."
So it's day 84 of President Trump's 4 to 6 week Iran war. Strait of Hormuz remains closed, which remains a big thorn in the side of the US administration. Meanwhile, there's been reports from the New York Times that Iran and Oman are in negotiations about how tolls might be charged if the Strait of Hormuz was to get opened again, despite President Trump threatening that they shouldn't be negotiating with Tehran and absolutely any such tolls will be completely unacceptable. So why is Oman engaging with Iran on such a sensitive issue? Well, the reports from the New York Times also said that not only were they looking at suggestions for charging tolls, but also for charging for services provided to vessels as they made their way through the strait. Now, the reality is that Oman didn't actually want to get involved in these talks initially, but of course, inevitably, this situation is rather more complicated than it might look from the top. So let's look under international maritime law. A nation is responsible for the waters out to 12 miles from its territory, from its coastline, and that's called its territorial waters. Now, it controls, therefore, anything in the air, on the surface or on the seabed out to 12 miles. Now, the only time that's complicated if another nation is within 24 miles of you, in other words, 2 times 12 miles, in which case a median line is drawn between the two. Now, if we look at the Strait of Hormuz, it varies in size between about 65 miles of width down to about 24 miles, so it really shouldn't be an issue at all, and you should be able to draw a nice simple median line down the middle that gives both Iran and Oman its territorial waters. Now, that would be simple were it not for one additional complication, is that the Strait of Hormuz is littered with lots of little tiny islands. We've shown a few.
Okay.
Now being dangled as the pretext for
Slovakia.
Experience.
I'm going to check this last piece on then. I'm going to go ahead and close. I just want to let a little news come out. This is the daily update. So they're dallying around, but the ceasefire is over, apparently.
more destruction, more flag-draped coffins returning to Dover Air Force Base. This is the playbook. The same tired, rancid playbook that was used to sell the invasion of Iraq. Invent a threat, personalize it, emotionalize it, and then use it to drown out the voices of sanity, questioning why young Americans are dying for a geopolitical project that benefits only weapons manufacturers and a foreign power that has turned the U.S. Congress into its personal ate. Let me be absolutely clear. This is a lie, a transparently manufactured excuse designed to greenlight strikes that the American military, frankly, is in no condition to carry out effectively. But here's the twist, the beautiful, ironic twist that must have Trump throwing his Diet Coke against the Oval Office wall. The very Arab states that he counted on to provide airspace, basing rights, and logistical support for his next round of strikes are the ones now racing to Tehran to make amends.
I'm going to end it right there. Yeah, this is them turning themselves. And if they shall turn themselves, who are they turning on? They're turning on these. And then these shall be troubled and bled. Who's that? The land of the Assyrians, the small hats and the Babylonians. Okay? So, and when I say the Babylonians, I'm talking about the Americans. All right? The Israelis and the Americans. All right? So, they're turning themselves clearly. Clearly. All right? The tables are turning. There's no more commerce going to go down in the Middle East as far as oil sales in the petrodollar. That's over now. Okay? So now the scramble to fill the vacuum has started. And we're being misled over here with Western media lying to us about what's actually going on over there, while the chessboard is completely rearranged. So what we'll do is we'll continue to watch and report on what on what is going on. Let's go to 13 here. Because what are we in? This is wars and rumors of wars and actual wars. Wars, rumors, and wars. 30. 30. Oh, here we go. Started 30. Or 29. Salakia. Second, Ezra 13 and 29. Behold, the days come when the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth. And he shall come to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth. And this whole 31 is all about war. Even celestial war. And one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one realm against another. And we're in that time. We're in the time of the beginning of wars. Right? War is all there is left until the end. Including this one realm against each other. Right? Nothing but war until the chariot lift. You're in a war right now acting like you're not. Okay? We call ourselves, when we go down and do the work, we're on the front lines of this war. All right? And that ain't no rumor of war. All right? Anyway, let's get this. The beginning. 2 Ezra 16 and 18, the beginning of sorrows and great mourning, the beginning of famine and great, the beginning of wars, plural, race wars, class wars, all them wars, civil, okay, nation against nation. The beginning of sorrows and great mourning, the beginning of famine, and great death, the beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils, bad times. What shall I do when these evils shall come? All right. Jump down to 34. In the war shall the bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and end it right there. We pray that the elect are edified, your brothers and few sisters. Shabbat Shalom.